Well, it's good to see everybody. Nice to see the Nashville Hintons here. As you can tell, they're trickling in, so we're going to descend on Somerset County here, and it's going to be overtaken by Hintons in the next few days for the week of Hinton-Palooza. So it's a week of partying and sleepless nights, right, kids? Staying up all night. Isaac's already tired, starting the week out strong. We've been talking about this cycle of loving your neighbors. It's the second greatest commandment, to love your neighbors as yourself. Getting into the lives of our neighbors. We've got to know our neighbors. We've got to respect them. We've got to love them and treat them the way that we would expect to be treated. But we also have to move them and teach them and instruct them who God is so that they fall in love with God. It's the greatest commandment in all of the scriptures. But we can't just stop with loving God. James says that faith without works is dead. We've got to move people to serve others. We were just talking about that in class, and Brent asked kind of an intriguing question, I thought, this morning. What would the world look like without money? It wouldn't work. Without the exchange of goods and services and being able to take care of people, it just wouldn't work. We have to serve people. Paul says that we were created for good works. It's not the works that gets us into heaven, but God created us for good works, to be able to take care of our fellow man. And then, of course, we cycle back to getting those people to love their neighbors, love God, serving others. Our theme this year is becoming the hands and the feet of Jesus, and our theme verses come from Matthew 25:37-40. Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you a drink? And when did we see you a stranger and welcome you, or naked and clothe you? And when did we see you sick or in prison and visit you? And the king will answer them, truly I say to you, as you did it to the one of the least of these my brothers, you did it to me. And so this year we build on this theme of becoming the hands and the feet of Jesus, walking the way that he walked, serving the way that he served, and taking care of people the way that he took care of people. Today we're talking about being the salt of the earth and the light of the world. That comes from the Sermon on the Mount, and it's one of the very first things that Jesus preached in a lengthy sermon. One of the very first things that came out of his mouth as he's looking at this crowd of thousands of people, he says, you are the salt of the earth and the light of the world. This is a salt cave that you're looking at here. In the first century, salt caves were very important because they brought a medicinal purpose for people. Even thousands of years ago, they understood the benefits, the health benefits of salt. And it turns out that if you take people into these underground hospitals, which is essentially what they were all over the place. You could treat people for like chronic inflammation, arthritis, all kinds of different diseases, and they would keep people down underneath the ground in these salt caves for lengthy times, and people actually fought to get to these places. It's kind of like today, we want the best treatment possible. We want the best hospitals. We want the best doctors. We want all of those things, and people will fight to get there whenever they have incurable or rare diseases. And the same was true in the first century. People would fight to get to these underground hospitals because salt has a lot of health benefits. This is cured meat. Have any of you ever had salt-cured meat? Only a few of you? You're kidding me. It's delicious. This meat is not cooked in the least bit. This is all 100% salt cured. So you can actually see on the one in the middle, kind of towards the top, you can see the crust on the outside of it. You bake it and kind of bury it in a pile of salt. And over time, this meat begins to cure. And it's 100% edible. They did not have refrigerators in the first century, if you can believe that. They didn't have refrigerators. And so they had to have a way to preserve the meat. And the best way to preserve it is to cure it. I don't think I have a picture of of this. Oh, Isaac, you'll like this. This is a chef putting salt on food to season it. What are they doing wrong, Isaac? That's right. They're not doing this. This is how we spread salt in our house. Isaac loves to put salt on things. Yep. Salt to flavor things is very important. We need salt as part of our diet. Very, very important. I don't have a picture of this, but how many of you have had fermented things? Fermented pickles. We love dilly beans in our family. A couple years ago, we made gallons of fermented green beans, like pickled green beans, and they were so good. I mean, they were absolutely delicious. I make sauerkraut, homemade sauerkraut that is absolutely phenomenal. The ingredients, 3 cabbages. I'm giving you guys my secret ingredient here. 3 cabbages, 1 purple, 2 green, or red cabbage. I call them purple because they look purple to me. Some people call them red cabbages. But 1 red or purple cabbage, 2 green cabbages. You cut them up, take the hearts out of them, and you put 3, that's it, 3 tablespoons of sea salt. And you layer the sea salt as you shred it. The boys have helped me. I've made it several times. And then you pack it down, you crunch it, and the salt draws out the moisture. And as you're punching it down, it's breaking the fibers inside of the cabbage, and it draws the natural sugars out. They react with the salt, and it creates its own brine. Literally the only ingredient besides for cabbage is salt. That's it. It makes the best sauerkraut that you will ever taste in your life. If you like sauerkraut, it is phenomenal. It's unlike anything you've ever had. Salt does all kinds of things. This is, it's not the best picture, but it's a picture of a marketplace in the first century. How many of you have heard the word salary? All of us, right? We've heard the word salary. Do you know that the word salary comes from a Latin word that was used in the Roman times in the first century for exchanges of salt? Salt was a commodity that was very precious, unlike today where we can throw it out, right? And we'll talk about it in the passage when Jesus says that salt could be thrown out. If it loses its taste, if it loses its effectiveness, it's to be thrown out and trampled on. Well, today, that's not a big deal, because today salt is fairly cheap. I actually used to haul tractor trailer loads of salt. Eric is a recipient of salt in the wintertime, and you know that sometimes it does come at a premium, doesn't it? It depends on the year, it depends on the demand, but I hauled it at a time several years ago when it was in very high demand. And so I took several loads from Baltimore, where we picked up at the bay, and we went out to Michigan. So when we pulled in, there are these huge mounds of salt, and they have different types of salt for different uses. And a lot of these come from some of these salt mines that are underground, and they bring them in on ships, and then they offload them at the bay in Baltimore, and then they go on tractor trailer, and then it's kind of sorted out. But I remember seeing a whole bunch of birds on top of this one massive salt pile, and it was a really fine salt. And I asked the people when I was getting loaded, because I got kind of the thicker salt for wintertime, and I was asking what these big piles of salt were that had all these, I think they were pigeons or something, and the birds were pooping all over this salt. And I was like, what's that salt used for? They were like, oh, that's pickling salt. I'm like, all right, so next time you get something that's pickled, just know that birds have pooped all over that. It's interesting. It's an interesting process. But salt has all kinds of purposes, like tons of them. And this is a picture of a marketplace, and they came up with this term that was a Latin term, and I forget exactly what the word is, but it meant an exchange of salt. And it was so common in the first century that began to take on a different form. And they began to substitute it for money. And so now we get a salary, and we still use that word in every single workforce today. We use the word salary. I get a salary of X amount of dollars. That comes from a word that meant exchange of salt. It was very precious in the first century. So that gives us a little bit more of insight into what Jesus was saying there. He said, you are the salt of the earth. Today that doesn't have a lot of meaning, but back then it meant you are precious, you are for tasting, you are for preserving, you are for healing, you are the salt of the earth. But if salt has lost its taste, in other words, if you have lost your benefits of being healing, of being a good flavor to other people, of being a favorable person, somebody who people look up to, people respect. If you've lost your saltiness, if it's lost its taste, how shall its saltiness be restored? It can't. It's no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled under people's feet. It's similar to saying, if your salary is no longer beneficial to other people. It's what Brent's class is about. We just shifted, and we're talking about a biblical view of money. And Brent said the most common, this actually, I didn't know that until this morning, that the most common talked about thing in the Bible is the poor. The way that we treat the poor. I never knew that. It appears more times, that theme appears more times in the Bible than anything else. Because we're American, it doesn't jump off of our radar. But it's similar to saying what Jesus is saying. It's similar to saying, if your salary loses its effectiveness to help other people, what good is it except to take it all and throw it away? I mean, that's the equivalent of what these people would have heard when Jesus said. They couldn't fathom taking salt and throwing it out and trampling it under people's feet. You don't do that. So Jesus' point is, don't lose your saltiness. Don't lose your effectiveness with other people. And then he goes on, he says, you are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden, nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but put it on a stand, and it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven. Right? It goes back to that cycle. We've got to love our neighbors, get people to love God through the way that we treat them. We're not going to win people over to God by berating people and talking down to them and losing our saltiness or our light in the world. The way that we bring people to Christ is by treating them with dignity and respect and honor and showing them who God is. And I call that, I think these passages, in my opinion, it's kind of the formula for building a bridge into the community. Building a bridge into our neighbors. Piece by piece, brick by brick, we build a bridge between the church and the community, and churches typically aren't good at doing that. So, bridges. I love bridges. I don't know about you guys, but I did a search. I did a quick search in our, we have a family Google Photos, and you can do searches for certain things, certain items, people, things like that. I did a search, and I'm like, all right, bridges. There are literally hundreds and hundreds of bridges that we've been to, that we have pictures of. There are lots that we don't have pictures of, but just within my photos, like, I don't know what it is, when we get to a bridge, the camera comes out. We're like, cool, and we don't even realize it. Or at least my camera comes out. Maybe I'm the only one. I'm the only weirdo in our family. But this is right after we were on our way back to our Airbnb in March from the Grand Canyon. And we got to this place, and we were just like mystified. And we're like, we gotta wheel in there and check this out. And the bridge to your left is a walking bridge, which we walked across. And the one on your right is the one that we drove across. That's the bridge built for cars. The one on the left used to be for cars, But I think they discontinued it in the, 1930s or something, or 40s or something like that, and then turned it into a walking bridge. But bridges are cool. There's another one that's at the Hoover Dam. The bridge in the background is the interstate that runs behind. DP doesn't know where that is. He doesn't understand that view either. He has no idea where this is. Never been there.
We're never getting to the World Series.
My kids know where this bridge is. Does anybody else? Anybody know where this is? Shout it out if you know what it is. Yeah, the Kinzu Bridge. So this is an old railroad bridge that went across this big ravine in Pennsylvania, and a tornado came through, and it twisted. You can see all the twisted metal like up on the hillside, and out where the platform is, where the people are, there's a glass bottom floor, and it's the coolest thing. And you walk out there, and you're standing on glass, looking hundreds of feet down into this ravine with all this twisted metal. They left all the twisted metal down below. It's one of the coolest bridges you'll ever see. That is at Assateague. That's actually Natalie, and I can't tell who else is with her. But that silhouette you see right in the middle, that's Natalie. That's on Assateague Island. That's just a little footbridge that goes out onto the beach. Anybody recognize that? DP, do you know where that is? That's right. That's in Ecuador. Maybe the other Hintons have been there. You guys have been to Quito. Have you been to this place? There's a waterfall at the end. You go through like a couple miles of bridges like this, and then there's a great big waterfall at the end. It's beautiful. Where is this on the left? My kids know. Don't cheat. Anybody else know where this is? No. Close. You ought to know where it is. You drive by it every single day just about. Kimberly Run. Just a couple minutes from here. That bridge, that little tunnel, what goes over top of that is the Berlin Plank Road. And that tunnel is really cool, and the acoustics are incredible. And our family wants to get a group together from church and sing inside of this tunnel because the acoustics are just unreal. On the right, what have we done out at the Glessner Bridge? Lots. Tons of baptisms. This is like our spot for baptisms. It's a very, very cool place. I think we had something like 12 baptisms in the last year and a half right here at the Glessner Bridge. So anyway, bridges into the community. Bridges are cool, they're pretty, they're unique. They don't all have to be the same. You don't have to use the same carbon copy method. What's Jesus saying? Be the salt of the earth. You are the light of the earth. You're the salt of the earth, you're the light of the earth. That means you're good for healing, preservation, taste, bring good taste to people. You light up the way, you draw people to Jesus. You shine a light by the way that you live your life. Don't lose that. Don't hide it. Don't lose it. So what does this look like? If we're the church and we're building a bridge into the community, it can be a unique bridge. It can be a cool bridge. It can be a high bridge. It can be a low bridge. How do we build a bridge into our community? Well, there's something going on right now. It's a very, 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 very popular trend, and I love it. There's an old mentality that you either work or you volunteer. You work, work, work. Go to your job, show up, clock in, punch the time clock. You work, work, work. And then if you have time left over, then you can volunteer and kind of do things for the church or the community or whatever. That's no longer the mindset. And there's been a cultural shift within our nation, and we didn't even realize it. And I think the way of the future, and really what's happening right now, is called social entrepreneurship. Social entrepreneurship. What does that mean? That means that people are blending the idea that you can help your neighbors. You can do good things for people in need. You can do acts of kindness, and you can make money at the same time. And I think this has so many cool implications for the church. We think about Paul. Paul was a tent maker. Paul wasn't like, work over here, we think of it that way. Work over here making tents, and over here, when he wasn't working that secular job making tents, he did his church work. I don't think anymore that's at all the way it worked. I think it was a hybrid model where he blended these things together, and Paul's tent making was a bridge that helped him get into the lives of other people. And we kind of get hints of that in the scriptures, where it talks about him meeting other tent makers, and they're using that common bond, and they're reaching people in the communities. I'll give you a very current example of what this looks like. Ryan Trahan, how many of you are watching the series along with us? All right, a bunch of you. The 50 States and 50-Day Journey. What was his original goal to raise money? Dollar amount. What was his original goal? $1 million to raise money for, was it St. Jude's? St. Jude's Research Hospital. He's only 25 or 26 days in. I just checked it this morning. Has anybody checked it this morning, or am I the only nerd here? Where was it last time you guys checked it? What was the amount? Isaac?
2,004,700.
Okay, so just a little over 2 million. He doubled it. He increased the goal. He already reached 1 million, and he just changed that to 2 million. He set the new goal as 2 million. Anybody else? What's the last you guys have seen it? Zach, you're watching it. I know you're watching it like us, like a hawk. Okay. Any of you check it? Anybody? All right. As of this morning, $3,280,000 and some odd cents. Over $3.25 million. He's not even, he's just barely over halfway through his journey. I was like, we're watching this and we're seeing it get momentum, and I was like, man, he's going to easily hit like $2.5 million. He already jumped well past $3 million. So it's this principle that social entrepreneurship says you can do good things for other people and raise or draw in money at the same time. You see, usually we separate that, especially in the church, because in the church we say, no, we don't want to ask people for money. Like, we don't want to kind of overuse that thing. And you show up at your job, you work, and then you volunteer for the church. That model is being absolutely obliterated now, and churches are starting to figure this out, and they're learning how to blend going into the community and raising money at the same time for things like mission trips and funding for the church, where it's not just the church members giving money into a pot and you exhaust the people by giving and giving and giving. You expand that net really big. And so I started doing some research into Somerset County, and Adam, you might find this interesting. I was like, man, like I did a really deep search into Somerset County, and I was like, what are the biggest needs within our community? Because I really don't know. I, honest to goodness, don't know. The number one thing in our community, and it doesn't matter how many times I research or how many different avenues or how many people I ask, it always comes back to the same thing. We have an aging population in Somerset County. And the number one thing is estate cleanouts. When people die, the family members are overwhelmed and they don't have people to help them ethically clean out all this stuff that's left behind and sort it and arrange it. And the area agency on aging in our community, it keeps coming back to care for the elderly. Things like shoveling sidewalks and just showing up, visiting with them. Literally showing up and just sitting with elderly people who are lonely in their house. The need is off the charts in our community. And I was like, there are endless possibilities to build bridges into the community. We just have to have the eyes to see it. And Jesus says, whatever you do, in life, whatever you do, don't lose your saltiness. Don't let your light dim Keep being a light to people, and God will show you how to reach people. He'll show you the way. And I really think that this congregation is a bridge builder within our community. I think we can do better, we can get better, we need a little bit more structure, but we have ways to reach out into the community. We have a well project. We just set our goal very ambitiously. Our annual goal was 1 well at $7,500. This year, it's 4 wells at $30,000. Kelly, get to work. I see you back there like sweating beads. Get to work. Your daughter created a team. I hope you're on it.
I didn't realize yours was 7,500. I was like, well, I had it.
Yep.
My name
That's right. So we need to up the ante. We need to believe that we can do this, right? And we need to trust God that God will bless us and God will use us to the best of our abilities. And when you do that, it becomes exciting. It's not a burden. How many church people do you know? You don't have to raise your hands, but how many church people do you know who, when they hear things like that, they're, one more thing. You know, when we live according to this scripture, we get excited. We get excited to help people. We get creative. We think of new ways to help people. Simply by being us, simply by being a light, simply by being salt. So don't ever lose your saltiness. Don't ever lose your light. Even if you're like, man, that's too ambitious, that's too big for me, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. But whatever you do, don't ever lose your saltiness to other people. Don't ever lose your ability to reach into the lives of other people and just be a blessing. If you do that alone, you have succeeded as a Christian. Find ways to bless people. Find ways to get into their lives and love your neighbors. That message is yours today. If there's anybody who has not yet taken the step to put Christ on baptism and you're ready, we just had 2 new sisters in Christ about a week ago. And we'll keep adding, the Lord will keep adding to the church. If you're ready to be baptized or if you have prayer needs, we encourage you to come up. We'll stand and sing this song together. Eric?